So many names, but let's just call him Jim. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dan?
I am doing well. How's the weather like in Alabama?
Actually, it's about to get pretty ugly.
Whoa.
Tornadoes are supposed to be coming through, so hopefully, yeah, just crackling thunder right now. So it's supposed to get pretty rough. We'll see.
Wow. I think, fortunately for us, in London, England, it's about to get pretty, actually,
Nice, good. I'm
because,
glad.
yeah, the winter is kind of over, and of course, the springtime and happy days. We have warmer weather, thankfully. Before we start the pod proper, I actually want to encourage everyone watching to please subscribe, like, share, show the pod a lot of love. I did check the analytics on YouTube. I saw that more than 70% of the regular viewers do not actually subscribe, and that is so that
Crazy
is why.
statistics.
So please, guys, love and respect to you guys. I work really hard to bring fantastic individuals like Jim, aka James Rojas. But of course, show the love and support. Thank you very much. Wow, what do you want me to call you, James Rojas or Jim?
Jim's fine. It's short and sweet.
Okay, Jim. So your journey from the U.S. Marine Corps to becoming an actor and playwright is quite intriguing. And of course, can you tell us about the moment you realized acting would become your life's work?
It's kind of funny because it's not so much that I'm not really a life's work kind of person. I'm a next step kind of person. Like I never know where I'm going. I don't have goals and stuff, but I accomplish things because I'm so busy living and I'm so busy moving that things just happen. So it's like none of it was planned really. Like the acting thing was just an accident. I was working in a Lone Star Steakhouse right after I got out of the Marine Corps. I was a young Marine, early 20s, real just dumb and honoring. And I was rolling silverware, and there was this girl over there who was rolling silverware as well. And she was going on about her voice lessons and how difficult they were. And I was like, come on, please. I'm not talking about difficult. I'm a Marine. I'll tell you about difficult. And I started breaking her balls. And then she just snapped up with this strength. And she was just like, oh, yeah, soldier boy, I bet you couldn't last 3 weeks in voice lessons. And I was kind of taken aback by her posture. She was coming at me. And it was like, all right, I'll take your challenge. And I saw it as a challenge. So I went and found a voice instructor in Huntsville, Alabama, and I went to take 6 weeks of voice lessons. But after the first voice lesson, I kind of forgot about the bet or challenge, whatever, because he handled me so well, and I was intrigued by the way he made me sound. So I just kept going, and then he put me into a chorus. Then I got into a play because when I was in the chorus, they had somebody like 6 people dropped out of the same part. This called Thundercloud in the play of Pocahontas, and they were like, "Could you please do this? The show's in 2 weeks. You only have like one sung line." And I was like, I was nervous, but I was like, "All right, I'll do it." And then it just kind of snowballed.
Excellent.
Within the first 2 years, I had 30. It was 2003 to 2005. From there, I went to New York, and like I said, it just on a whim. I worked up there. I wrote, produced, and performed in my own play in 2007, and that got me an audition for my second SAG film, but my first lead role in a SAG film. And like I said, it was just it was snowballing. But then I had a unfortunate betrayal that kind of just wrecked everything from there. But the key takeaway from that was realizing what was going on with myself and with acting. It was like a key focal point, I guess you could say.
So your background with the Marine, it actually combines a discipline and military service. And that's very, very different from creativity and acting. But how has your experience as a Marine Corps shaped your approach to teaching mental and emotional literacy today?
Well, I think a lot of the key factors are like grit and tenacity, discipline, because those are things you need. Because I didn't realize what I was going to get myself into. I wasn't planning on it, but here I am. But I need those things because trying to present a new form of literacy isn't easy. I mean, if you think about when they tried to bring reading and writing about, how many people stopped them? How many people thought it wasn't important? But will we ever go back? Do we want to go back to not being literate? Same thing with numerical literacy. When people brought numbers, like, why are you going to teach women numbers? They don't have the brain power to think of numbers. but you got women coding NASA's, stuff. We resist it because it's easy to resist. So it's having that grit and tenacity. Because I've been working at this on and off since 2008 and getting nowhere. It's like until I got into the podcasting world, it's the first time I've gotten some traction. But up until then, if I didn't have this grit, tenacity, and just stick with it, I probably would have gave up on it. And it's like I said, I know this is important knowledge for the world. I'm not the guy. I'm not the hero this idea needs. I'm the hobo it has. I tripped over this knowledge, I'm not like some brilliant scientist or some, affluent individual. I'm just the guy who tripped over a rock of gold and I'm trying to show people.
Interesting stuff. I see you are done in our heart, a Peruvian heart. I see you're really proud of your Peruvian heritage. I do have a friend who is Peruvian as well, Cindy Hernandez. A very fantastic individual. She was on the podcast last year. But what would you say your heritage as a first generation American Peruvian mean to you?
I mean, it's a wide variety of things because it's a beautiful and sad heritage. Because most of the South America's got pillaged, but there's a lot of beauty into it, like the color, and two, the food, man. Like the potatoes, there's like 700 different
You guys have
varieties
got
of
great
potato.
food.
Well, I'm just saying, like there's literally a potato that comes out of the ground and it tastes like it's buttered. It's yellow and it's moist in the middle, like it's buttered. It's crazy. But like I said, there's 700 different in corn too. But it's like I'm not a foodie. I just like to eat. You know what I mean? I like to taste the stuff. I can't explain stuff. I'm not like a sommelier or somebody who can a chef who can break stuff down. I just love to eat. That's why I love Peruvian food. Like cheap is amazing. And like I said, it's that, and I love the Inca culture. Like I've lied to friends all the time and tell them I come from the blood of Inca kings. They don't know any better, but I don't mind. I'll say it all day long. But it's just like Tupac Amaru. Like the American rapper Tupac, he got his name from this kid named Tupac Amaru, who was like he was the last Inca, the last Quechuan king. And it was a crazy story how like he was fighting the rebellion, and when they finally caught him, they drawn and quartered him, had 4 horses, and 4 horses couldn't tear this guy apart because he was such a beast. It's crazy. But yeah, it's a very rich heritage.
Interesting. You actually touched on the food and you said you are not a foodie, but I am an award-winning foodie.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Congratulations
I am
on
an
that.
award-winning foodie, and I have been privileged to explore Peruvian food, and I can tell you for free that it is, top of the food chain.
Yes.
It's really fantastic, and I like the cocktails and the mocktails that you guys have. And
Did you try guinea pig?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but I did have what's that one that the name is called something sour? Is it Michu?
The pisco sour.
Pisco, yeah, like it's really nice, and of course it tastes like something from where I come from called palm wine. So it's more palm wine is actually alcoholic. Palm wine is this fermented juice from the palm tree, but it's alcoholic. It's really really delicious, especially when it's fresh. And of course, the pisco sour actually tastes just like that. So I guess they're like some sort of alignments between the Nigerian food scene and of course the Peruvian food scene. And something I like from the Peruvian food scene is also the Peruvian fried rice, and
Yeah.
also Nigeria we have the Nigerian fried rice.
Well, a lot of Peruvian food, there's a significant amount that's inspired from African cuisine. So it's very possible that because there's a lot. Like I said, Peruvian cuisine, the chifa style, it's an infusion of South American food, African food, and Chinese food all fused together. So it's like there's no doubt that somewhere along the line, some of those recipes or some of that culture are spilt right into it. That's why the similarities are there.
And you guys have a lot of corn in your diet as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Hundreds of varieties of corn. Like I don't know how they how they change them out the way they do, but like I said, there's so many different varieties. It's good food.
Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. You make a compelling case that acting techniques should be used as a base operating system for our brains, just like your Windows.
Mm-hmm.
your Android system, your Linux. But can you explain this metaphor and how exactly these tools can revolutionize personal growth?
Absolutely. Our best mind scientists in the world are the ones that say the human brain is the most powerful supercomputer in the world, right? We all have this powerful supercomputer and an emotional power core. But who sits us down and says, hey, little Johnny, this is how your mind works? Or hey, little Susie, this is how your emotions work. We all go through adolescence and get punched in the face because we don't know how to work our emotions. Well, if you look at the last 2,500 years of Western acting from the ancient Greeks to today, the first 2,100 years is what people think acting still is. Pretend, masking, representation. It's not that. From the 3 years after that, from 2,100 years to like 2,400 years, it moved into naturalism, to realism. But in the last 100 years, like from 1900 on with this gentleman named Konstantin Stanislavski, he made it more philosophical. It's not about pretending. It's not about representation. It's about being and becoming. So what they essentially did was create all these tools and techniques, these tools to sculpt the marble that is their art. Now, if you look at artists and what their art is, metal workers work with metal, glass workers work with glass, musicians work with composition and instruments. What do actors work with? We literally work with the human mind and emotions. We chisel, we scrape, we polish, we sculpt the human mind and emotions to make an actor mentally and emotionally into another human being. We are literally changing into another version of ourselves. So here's the rub. We don't have a mind and emotions for the stage and a mind and emotions for real life. So it's kind of like saying, if I have a screwdriver and I'm unscrewing a screw from a toy Tonka trunk, my buddy's saying, well, why are you going to use that screwdriver to unscrew a screw on the panel in your real truck? That's for toys. No, these are just tools. What we use them on is what's important. And what I'm saying is, because these are the tools and techniques that explain how to use our mind and emotions to allow us to interface it, that means we can literally use them like an operating system, something that makes this analogous, mysterious thing called the human spirit tangible, putting words onto them, labeling things and defining them. Like, let me give you a clean example. Have you ever heard of the it factor?
The earth factor.
The it factor, like in entertainment.
Okay, yes.
Can you
just
explain
like the X
it?
Factor, like when somebody's like just super good, undeniably good, and then you say that person has that it factor, you can explain it, or you just know that this person is undeniably good.
But that's the whole thing. We can't explain it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we keep telling ourselves. I'm going to put 5 skills together. Now, this isn't absolute what I'm saying. What I'm trying to do is label it. I'm saying if you take these 5 skills, put them together, in the moment, you'll have the it factor.
Okay, let's go. I'm curious to
All right.
know about
Number 1, active listening. The ability to truly engage, to listen to what the other person's saying, not to listen to speak. Listen to take to take them into yourself and understand. Active listening. Number 2, charm. It's that charisma or magnetism that when you engage with someone that you can connect and you can, relate to them more. You're pouring some of yourself into them. Number 3, intensity. That's where you're using your force of presence to just bring it. You're not trying to dominate anybody, but you're coming into the moment with this intensity that nobody can resist because it's just your force of presence. Number 5, generosity. When you're so rich and full of spirit yourself that when you're in the moment, you're trying to pour that life into someone else to make their experience as rich and full as yours is. So you're giving to them. And number 6 is poise, the way you stand, the way you hold your body. It's about using your physical behavior to do work for you. Now, those 5 things together, if you put them together in the moment, you'll have the it factor. Now, if we can break it down, if we can label it, it now becomes teachable.
You talked about charisma, and I very much related to with aura. How can you teach a person charisma? Because for me, I just feel it's innate. It is innate. It is more of nature than nurture. But what's your argument about nurture for charisma?
It's like this. Everything in life is a learned skill. Some people are born at higher levels of skills. You know, some people are born as amazing athletes. Some people are born as amazing writers. Some people are born as full of charisma. But just because somebody isn't 6 foot tall, Spud Webb proved that you can't be a basketball player. We all can learn it. The question is, do you have the willingness and discipline to learn how to gain charisma? Charisma is a learned skill. And basically, through these tools and techniques of the actor, you break things like that down to show you how to learn them. It's about presence. It's about understanding. Charisma is just filling your soul up. Once you fill up your spirit, your mind and emotions, it's just pouring out of you. And at that point, you're just alive and you can turn it on and off. It's like code switching. You pick and choose who you want to be at the moment. It's just the question is, have you learned? Because going back to literacy, if you don't know how to read, someone hands you a contract, you're at the mercy of someone else. If you can't count, someone hands you money, you're at the mercy of someone else. If you don't have mental and emotional literacy, why would you know how to turn your charisma on? Why would you be able to understand it? No one ever taught you. I'm saying these cats accidentally created this stuff because they didn't create it to give mental and emotional literacy to the world. They created it to perfect their art. Their art just happened to be the human being. Nobody ever thought of the implications that this affects everybody.
Earlier on, you talked about that gentleman called Konstantin Stanislavski, who shifted acting from pretending to becoming. Can you break down why this shift is critical, not just for acting, but for personal development as well?
Absolutely. Think of it like this. Like I was saying a minute ago, it's like if you can't read, you're at the mercy of someone else. You can't count, you're at the mercy of someone else. Do you think anyone is ever trying to affect your mind and emotions?
Sometimes.
Okay, not just that. Right now, this is in America. I don't know how it is in London, but in America, consumer sales is 70% of GDP. That's like $15 trillion. Because of that, political leaders, corporations, think tanks, all these people with billions of dollars are pouring it to understand how the American consumer thinks, feels, acts, in order to influence how they vote, how they buy. So at all points in times, with social media, with emails, targeting, they're hitting you at all points, trying to put things into your head, trying to make you feel certain ways. Because believe it or not, they're thinking of subliminal ways to make you do what they want. If you don't have mental and emotional literacy, it's no different than not being able to read that contract or understand how to count money. If you don't have that literacy, if you gain this literacy, you negate all the things they're doing. Their money is a waste on you because now you're literate.
You talk about our mental literacy, and of course, you just quickly touched on emotional literacy. I think it's quite close to what I personally tell people, that I believe that in order for a person to be well rounded in terms of their social skills, you need two levels of capabilities. You need a high IQ, and of course, you need a high EQ. So the IQ is your intelligent quotient, and the EQ is emotional quotient. Are you able to touch on balancing these two? Because there are persons who are high on one side and low on the other.
It's the best way I could describe it is like going to the gym and working your upper body and lower body out. It's about what you put into it. You have to work both of them out. You work your emotions out by feeling them, by literally feeling your emotions. And emotions, there's a new theory coming out, the theory of constructed emotions by Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, I believe. And she's trying to supplant the old 90s, or it was like mid 19th century, the idea of the theory of the triune brain, where we have the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and like the amygdala or whatever it is. And it said that we're all born with certain emotions and that's it. The theory of constructed emotions is saying we build emotions in the moment. So if that's true, that means if you feel your emotions the way actors do, you're growing, developing, and leveling your emotions, like your muscles. You're making them stronger. Same thing with your mind. If you go through these exercises to experience, like, let me run through one exercise. Actually, yeah, let me go through it. The Stanislavski System. This is a way to exercise your mind. It's The purpose of the Stanislavski system, it's 7 questions to break down the moment you are in, to understand the moment you are in, to see all the choices you can make so you can make the best possible choice in that moment. Number 1, who am I? This is the moment in relation to you. Number 2, where am I? This is the moment in relation to the environment you're in. Number 3, when is it? This is the moment in relation to time. Like, am I going to talk to my boss about something difficult before he's had some food? I'm about to get on the road before rush hour traffic. Number 4, what do I want? This is the moment in relation to purpose. Number 5, why do I want it? This is the moment in relation to desire. You got to know your what and your why, because if you don't know your why, someone else can hijack your what and you're doing their why now. Manipulation again. Number 6, how do I get it? This is the moment in relation to action. What's your plan? What are you doing to get what you need? And number 7, what's in my way? This is the moment in relation to obstacles. Now, essentially, this is kind of like, think of it like a submarine underwater. This is like sonar. A submarine can't see anything, so it sends out a ping. The ping tells it where other submarines are, where the ground is, where whales are, where boats on the surface are. They drop in depth charges. So these questions, when you walk into any environment, any situation you walk into, you fire off these questions, they're going to come back with answers. When you come back with those answers, now you're in a better position to make a choice than someone else who doesn't ask any questions at all, because your literacy is up and theirs is down.
So, in your view, why has society overlooked acting techniques as a means of developing essential life skills like empathy, emotional regulation, and critical thinking?
I feel that's mainly, there's probably lots of answers, I'm sure, but 2 main answers. Number 1 is, like I said earlier, most society still thinks acting is in the pretend representation. They still think we're in the first 2,100 years. They don't realize acting has evolved. And number 2, nobody looks to the theater kids for world-changing knowledge. You pull their pants up, you make fun of them. You don't look at them to change the world. So these people who created these tools and techniques are not regarded as brilliant scientists or brilliant artists. They're just seen as theater people. And that lack of understanding we have for what we stumbled onto is costing us dearly, because when we gave written language, the literacy of reading to the world, it changed the world. When we gave numerical literacy to the masses, it changed the world. By that philosophy, why wouldn't it change the world if we gave humanity mental and emotional literacy in a systemic way?
But then, talking about the practical applications and, the benefits of these acting techniques, what specific acting techniques would you recommend as a starting point, for someone looking to improve their emotional intelligence and mental clarity?
Along with just feeling your emotions, like that's one of the big ones. Like I said, there's exercises as well, but feeling your emotions, it was strengths out the first. The Stanislavski system, that will help you out with understanding the moment. The magic if, that's a Stanislavski tool. Basically, it's a what if exercise. It's a thought experiment. So basically, if you're going into an interview, right? Because think about have you ever been in an interview?
Definitely many
How many times do you rehearse before you go in?
Or rehearse.
Exactly. People don't rehearse before they go into an interview. If you take these tools and techniques and rehearse before you go in, you're not starting at 1. So it's like the magic if would be, what if I walk in the door and I fumble with the door and caught my sleeve and they see me and I look like an idiot? Okay, what if I reset, go back to the beginning? What if I walk in the door and I see it's a kid I used to bully in high school? Okay, reset, back in. What if I walk in and I see it's my ex-girlfriend? Reset, back in. What if I walk in and it's a guy I knew in my college? We hit it off. We're making great friends. You're changing the circumstances, and you can even do it once you sit down. What questions are they going to ask? What anecdotes am I going to bring to be funny enough for them to remember? Because that's a key thing. People remember what they laugh at, what they're emotional. So if you come in to an interview armed with a funny anecdote, that's something that you can hook on to them to remember you. It's like these are actionable things you can do to change your life to get what you need. Because it's with Stanislavski. What's the obstacle? I need to get hired. What are the skills the people who are applying have that I don't? Can I get those real quick? What do I have that they don't have that I can strengthen up? So you're thinking about it. And now that you're able to think about it, you're able to ask all these questions that change your choices.
So, are you able to share a transformational story of someone you personally worked with, demonstrating how applying these acting principles have led to profound personal growth for them?
Actually, yes. I was helping someone with in the acting world we call it stage fright, and the civilian world you call it insecurity. Those are the two same things. We just don't realize. Okay, so this friend was giving presentations, needing to get up and speak for their job, and they were insecure about it. And I'm telling them, it's like, you got to look at it like this. It's just stage fright. And the reason actors have stage fright is because they don't know all their moments. They don't understand all the beats. They haven't picked out all the behavior they're going to have and what they're going to do. They haven't answered all the questions. Once you answer all the questions, you do all the rehearsal, you want to get up there and get it out because you've done all the work. And I asked them what work they've done, and they're like, I don't know. I'm going to read it. And I'm like, that's terrible. You have to know what you're going to sing. It's like you have to know the meaning of a song just as well as you when you sing it, as just you want to know the meaning and the tune, the melody and stuff like that. It's all part. They're different pieces. If you don't fill out all those little pieces, you're going to have that insecurity, and you're going to be in that point where you fail. There's this quote from this Archiliakos. He's a Greek lyrical poet, and it's, we don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall back to the level of our training. So if we take the time to use these techniques to train ourselves, we won't have that stage fright. We won't have that insecurity. We just perform. And once they learned the tools and techniques, boom, they were fine.
So speaking of falling to the level of our training, in your experience, how quickly can an individual begin to see tangible, measurable changes in their lives after incorporating these acting and improvisation techniques?
I would say, going back to the gym, it's the same thing. It depends. It's you reap what you sow. If you go to the gym 5 times a day, you're going to see results fast. If you do this as a lifestyle, you will see results fast. If you just do it every now and again, it's going to be flimsy results. It's about how much you put into it. I'll explain it like this. When we first start driving cars, it's flimsy, it's clumsy. We don't know what we're doing. The road is scary. There's stuff coming at us. But once we get an adult, maybe 10, 20 years into driving a car, we drive to places we know without even remember having to get there. Have you ever experienced that? Where you drove somewhere and you don't remember the drive? That's a human phenomenon. That's the way our minds work. Well, we do a task over and over again. The mind gets quicker at it. It starts chunking stuff together, use less energy. If you practice the Stanislavski system as a lifestyle, like at this point in my life, I just walk in a room, boom, all these questions out, I don't have to, what time is it? It's instant. I don't even have to think about it. It's like the car. It just happens because I live it as a lifestyle. If you do that, change will happen quick. It'll happen fast. It'll be hard in a good way. But if you just kind of pitter through it, it's like at the gym, man. If I want to go in a bodybuilding contest, I'm not going to go to the gym the day before, You got to put the effort into it. But the more you put in, the more you get out. And this, like I said, the people who do this, they're going to be pioneers because, again, this is like the first people who are learning how to read, the first people who are learning how to count. You're going to have an edge above everybody else because you'll be able to see what other people don't see.
So there's this psychological, theory around that called the learning curve. And of course, once you do things, rinse and repeat, the mind just gets quicker, adapted at performing those tasks. And of course, in terms of physiology as well, muscle memory.
Yes, absolutely. And two, it's, to me, like I tell people all the time, it's how I think faster. It's like the brain is a supercomputer. If it takes that and speeds up the task isn't something I do. Well, it is, but the task that I sped up is the way I think, literally. So it's like, essentially, I've sped up the processors in my mind by doing this because I've turned that learning curve phenomenon on the way I think, not so much on some task I'm doing. So it's just that one little tweak changed it. And now I am burning past most of my contemporaries when it comes to thought.
Let's talk about your book, your body of work. It's titled All Your Best Selves. So it aims to teach emotional and mental literacy. But what inspired you to write this book, and who do you believe would benefit most from reading the book?
I believe, like I said, it's it's wide ranging simply because we all have a mind and emotions and we all don't know how to use it yet. It's like who would benefit from reading? Who would benefit from numbers? Everyone, because we all need them to live our lives to the fullest. So once we get into the point where we're actually teaching this, like into the school systems, the same way we teach numbers and math, it's going to allow us to raise a whole generation of people who are more mentally incapable than we've ever seen, like humans 2.0. Because again, it's going to upgrade us as a species. So that's why I feel it's incredibly important for all of us. The book itself is broken up into 3 parts. This is what it looks like. It's the first part is my life, like an autobiography in relation to the idea. It's the smallest part. Then it breaks into the middle part, which is the idea itself and the science that supports it. And the third part is what I refer to as the intangible toolbox. Now, it's the biggest part, but it's the one that has the Stanislavski exercises, the Meisner exercises, Uta Hagen's exercises. It explains how we use them as actors alongside how they can be used in life with actionable exercises. So each exercise can be actionable in your life. It just shows how you can use them in that sense.
So, how do you define mental and emotional literacy, and why do you think it is just as important as the traditional literacy we learn in school, like reading and mathematics in today's world?
I guess I would say it's in the sense about labeling things that have been intangible for so long, things that we just throw away as we can't understand. Because that's how numbers are. When you start putting numbers together in a row and having a systemic way to explain how they work, not just, well, maybe this, maybe that. No, we can lay it out and look at it, and it's repeatable. Other people just can review it and get the same answers. It's not something that's flexible. It's flexible, but we understand it easy. So I feel like in the same way, by putting labels to things that, like I said, like the it factor, breaking it down that way, we're putting labels to words. Now we can teach it. And that's what it's about. It's about having a system that we can teach that allows people to gain knowledge about the mind and the emotions that they didn't have before. Because once they can speak that language, they have literacy for it. And once they have literacy for it, it becomes exponentially more difficult to be manipulated through those forms. Like I said, with reading, if you can't read, a lawyer's contract could be manipulating you easy. Money, if you don't know the exchange rate, you get manipulated. Right now, billions upon billions of dollars are being spent to influence us mentally and emotionally by corporations in the 1%. If we don't gain that literacy for ourselves, we are crazy susceptible to that manipulation. How would you know?
What would you say was the most surprising discovery you made while researching and writing your book?
I would have to say all the science that's been done. I didn't, because again, the idea never occurred to me till I tripped over it. And then once I started looking at it, I'm like, who's going to accept this? This is ridiculous. But when I started doing research on things like 1950s, Dr. Joseph Levy Moreno created psychodrama, which has been crazy successful as group therapy, literally by taking acting tools and techniques and using them in the psychotherapy or the group therapy environment. Sense theater is teaching kids with autism how to understand life better. It's kind of like the difference between a play and improv. If you have a play, you have a script. The script is your givens, and that's what you memorize and understand. If you're doing improv, like a 2-hour long show with a beginning, middle, and end, you have no lines. You have to make it up as you go along. It's kind of like this show. We're not scripted. We're just making it up as we go along. Well, in that sense, you have to understand how a play works, the structure of it. Well, that's what they're doing with the sense theater. They're teaching kids with autism how the social structure works, so they don't have to read other people's cues, social cues, because that's what they have trouble reading, those social cues. So if they understand how everything works, now they're they're looking behind the curtain, so to speak. They understand how it works. Trauma drama teaches kids who have experienced trauma in their life by putting them in scenes, using acting tools and techniques, to putting them in other scenes with different traumas that they aren't affected by. So they could learn tools and techniques and how to deal with trauma, so they can take those tools and techniques and later deal with their own trauma. So now they're armed with something. So it's kind of like reverse engineering healing in a sense. Like there's universities and colleges that are teaching this in a sense to help people, but the way we're helping people right now is to help the broken, like Sing Sing. There was a movie that came out called Sing Sing, which talks about the theater program, and how it's helped convicts, channel their emotions and be less destructive. And they can't leave the system, sure, because they're lifers, but that's even more profound because they can't get out, but they still changed through using theater. So like these tools and techniques absolutely work. And like I said, I was shocked by how much. But it's just that point of laying it all out and seeing it now. It's just it's hard to realize that it's someone else hasn't seen it before me. I don't know.
So you have a unique perspective and about how you envision the world. But like, how do you envision the world changing if mental and emotional literacy become mainstream?
Oh, I think it'll change exponentially. Things like road rage will go away. We'll listen better. Relationships will be improved because think about what women complain about. Two major things women complain about with relationships with men are men don't listen and they don't have empathy. We're taught to listen multiple different ways in acting. So if you learn those things, because to me, women aren't complex at all because my emotional body's built. I listen to women emotionally, not mentally. I listen to how they feel. I listen to their behavior. So I'm not listening to what guys generally listen for. I'm listening for different things. So they're not crazy to me. They make sense. Women are literate to me because I speak to them in the language that they speak. But they don't know how to express it that way because they aren't literate in themselves. They're just like men don't know how to explain that way because they just speak in themselves. Once you gain these literacies, now your communication between the two improves. Like I said, the fact that I sped up my thinking, sped up my processors, if we did that to everyone and everyone's mind sped up, imagine how much more we would learn, how much faster we would learn, how quicker, because there's times where you go into jobs. I break it down like this. This isn't a law, but I call it the law of averages. And it breaks down like this. Everywhere I go, it doesn't matter if it's like, whatever group of people I'm around, it could be like 20 scientists, 20 cops, 20 lawyers, 20 random group of peepers. It generally always breaks down with 20% are good, 20% are bad, and 60% are common. Now, good and bad have to interact when they're around each other. They can't help it. Common is the bystanders. And this is different. It's just like if there's a building on fire and you run in to save somebody, you're good. If you're holding the matches, you're bad. If you're sitting on the sidewalk with your phone, taking a video, you're common. And it connects to that Edmund Burke quote, where it's like the only thing for evil to exist is good men to do nothing. I think that quote's BS. Good people, like I said, good and bad have to interact. It's common people who don't. They're the ones who can be bystanders. So they're the ones who are holding us back the most. Because good people are trying to do good, bad people are doing good or bad, and common people are just hanging along for the ride. So they're dead weight, literally. They're just living their lives. And it's like, to advance society, we need more than that. So if we're able to implement these tools and techniques and pull them out of that mentality of like, well, I'm just going to do this, I'm not going to give anymore. Once they understand their whys, once they understand obstacles, planning, now they have the tools and techniques to lift themselves up. Just like someone who couldn't read, couldn't do anything. Someone who couldn't do math, couldn't count. Once they have these things, they have the ability to raise themselves up. Once we give mental and emotional literacy to the world, they can raise themselves up out of this darkness and now live in a new, brighter world.
So, how do you respond to skeptics who might dismiss your approach, suggesting that acting skills are not universally accepted or applicable or relevant?
Well, like I said, I've had a lot of skeptics, and I just lay out the things. I explain to them like it's not about acting. Acting can throw that because acting, I think, gets in the way because people look at it, throw it away. This is about the tools and techniques. This is about the screwdriver, not the Tonka truck. This is about what the screwdrivers can do, what the chisels, what the hammers, what the scrapers, what the polishers can do, and what you can apply them to. So if you take those and apply them to the human brain, it changes who we are in life. And two, the science that supports it, because all the science that I found now supports this. Nothing negates it. Because like I said, the theory of constructed emotions supports how we actors work. Behavior study, it follows along how psychology works. And there's also a lot of cross work done between acting and psychology over the last century. They reach across both sides because they know both have something to offer. So everything is in place to show that this is true. It's just there's no spotlight on it.
So, what's your ultimate goal with this movement that you are leading, and how can communities and institutions support your vision?
I would love to see it in schools alongside math and reading. Teach it to them young. Like I said, if we teach kids how to understand their emotional bodies when they're in elementary school, by the time they hit adolescence, they're not going to emotionally freak out because they built their emotional bodies because they understand it. It's like giving kids a calculus test in junior high school without ever teaching them math. That's insane. But that's what we literally do. And when we don't literally do it, nature gives them the calculus test. Nature's the one that gives them adolescence. But we have the tools and techniques now to teach them how to pass the test. We just aren't. So if we get it in schools while they're young, like I said, we raise a whole generation of people that are more mentally and emotionally capable we ever seen before. We change the world for the better. Empathy becomes a thing.
So for my audience and anybody who's going to see this podcast, how can they start practicing at least just one acting technique today to change their lives, and what would it be, and why start from there?
I would say two: magic if and yes and. Magic if, what I was explaining earlier, that's why I add two, because I want to add something new. The magic if is crazy important because it allows you to change your perspective. It allows you to think outside the box, think creativity, like they say. Yes and is an improv exercise, and it's simply what it says. Whatever you say, like if we're walking down the street or if we're in a scene and I say, that's a red truck. Yes, that's a red truck. And there's a guy with a blue hat driving it. So I'm accepting what's happening and I'm adding on to it as well. So I'm not negating, I'm accepting. So it allows you to draw stuff into yourself. So the magic if and yes and, completely simple exercises, but they have profound effect if you change your lifestyle.
So reflecting on your own lifestyle, your life experiences, of course, you have had diverse experiences. So what's the single most important lesson you wish everyone could internalize?
I would have to say, I mean, it's slightly dangerous because curiosity killed the cat, but it's got to be curiosity, because if you're not curious, you're not going to learn. I mean, if someone would tell me, if there was somebody painting the wall and this guy he knew everything about paint, like how to break it down, the pigments, and he was sitting there with passion and intensity explaining me the pigments of the paint, how the brush strokes work, just painting like a wall on just a regular building, I would be curious to listen if he had the soul enough to deliver it the right way. So that's what I'm saying. Curiosity allows you to connect to everything else. And it's like people say, I don't know what to do. And I will say this. I'm kind of drifting a little bit with curiosity, but it's kind of like this. With me, with curiosity, I kind of wine taste life. I don't sit there and just pick one thing and say, well, I'm going to commit to this. I started it. I'm going to finish it. No, I will quit things all the live long day. It's like I said, it's like a wine taste. Take a sip. Do I like it? Spit it out. Don't like it. If I like it, I'll buy the bottle. If I really love it, I'll buy a barrel, So the curiosity to taste
By the
all these.
wholesaler.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But it's the curiosity that allows me to taste all these different things, to have that wide variety. And that wide variety gives you knowledge to draw from.
Variety, they say, is a spice of life. My final question to you today is, can our audience connect with you and find your resources to get involved in your initiatives?
Absolutely. A couple different places. I just started social media. I'm a Gen Xer, man, so I'm learning it. I was born in '78, so I'm almost 50 years old now.
Wow, you don't look it.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Yeah, I'm like 50, almost 50. I'm like 40 something, like 48, 47.
I guess you just like the wine you like, aging like fine wine.
Yeah. But my handle is Soy Candy, SoiCandie. You can find me on YouTube, Blue Sky, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I have my website. It's www.tbcenterprises.com. That's TBC, like Tango Bravo Charlie. On there, I post my videos, my podcast interviews. I post on there as well. And also, I'm working on a miniature. I work with miniatures and stuff, so I'm doing like a miniature fantasy story. I'm just starting up, and I'm telling the story through there, and I post the videos on there and such. So, like I said, I don't know exactly know what I'm doing with everything. I'm just trying to make something work, throwing darts at the wall and see what sticks. And lastly, Amazon. That's where, if you want to get my book, the only place you can get it right now is on Amazon. You can get a Kindle version or a paperback. So check it out on there. And if you do get it, please leave a review. That'd mean a lot to me. Reviews do help. Like I said, I feel like the book would be very beneficial to your life.
Oh, wow, fantastic. I think I will add your social media handles to the description of the podcast,
Thank you.
people are able to easily access them. Of course, your website as well would be in the description. And I like to say something: gratitude is good attitude. And the SI unit for measuring life is time. So when somebody shares their time with you, they're sharing their life with you. And of course, thank you very much for sharing your time and, of course, your life with me and my audience today. Nothing but love and respect to you. Before you leave, do you want to give a shout out to anybody?
Wow. I've never been asked that question yet. I can't think of anybody at the moment. I mean, it's rough, but yeah, I'm kind of a lone wolf, I kind of run by myself right now. But yeah, I'm grateful for you having me on the show. I mean, it was a grateful experience. I'm glad to get my message out, and you've been very warm and hospitable, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You always beat me to saying thank you. I am very grateful, and of course, I really wish and pray for you to do really great things. You are highly resourceful, highly insightful, and I really hope to see your work gain global attention in your own lifetime, because it's really sad that a lot of geniuses, in global history, don't tend to live long enough to see their work, get that global attention.
I
See,
mean,
a lot of the
I've accepted that a long time ago.
a lot of the guys we read in school, are long dead.
Tesla's my big, because it's like if Nikola Tesla, because he was like a legit genius. I mean, like a super genius. And if that guy can die poor, dark, and alone in a hotel room, it's like, what chance do I have? But it's not about me, because I accepted that. This isn't about me or my life. This knowledge is, because this isn't, like I said, it's not my life work. It's not something I love. I mean, if somebody were able to prove me wrong, that would make me happy, because it's been 20 years and I can just drop it. But the fact that I know in my heart that I'm right and no one can prove me wrong, I understand the importance. This is about our species. This can level us up. So it's not about me anymore. And if it happens after me, that's fine, as long as I can carry this bucket for as long as I can.
The natural instinct of human beings is, could I say, animalistic in nature, because think about it, human beings are just higher animals, and the natural instinct is self-preservation. And when I get to see people, meet people who are able to rise above the instinct of self-preservation and become selfless, it's something I always very, very much appreciate. Before we started the board, I was telling you about how I rate highly individuals who serve, individuals who actually commits to the service of humanity. Top of the food chain for me is, healthcare workers, and of course, military personnel like yourself are also high up there because of that service to humanity, and it radiates in everything that you do. It transcends, all of your body of work. And once again, for me, and of course, by the powers bestowed upon me, on behalf of the good people on planet Earth, I want to say a very, very, very big thank you to you. Once again, much love and respect from the other side of the pond, from London, England. And of course, if you guys have actually been with us until the end, thank you very much. We love you. And of course, I'm working really, really hard to ensure that I have fantastic individuals like Jim come educate you, give you inspiring, insightful content. The only way you can support is to show love, like, share, comment, join the channel, give your super thanks, just support in every possible way that you can. And of course, that is actually very, very much appreciated. For me, it is peace and love and respect. God bless you guys.